Welcome, everybody, to YMA Chat, episode number 31. I am here with Mr.
32.
Yarwood. 32.
32. We
I
just
just
talked
asked
about
him.
that.
I know. But that's what happens when you get old and get gray hair. You lose.
You don't have any hair. What are you talking about?
Right here, man.
Oh.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. It is a wonderful sunny day, and I'm down here at the river, and we're doing live stream. You'll see behind me there's waffle cones and joy cake cones, woo, in a box. And today we are going to be talking about motivation and the drive to succeed. Motivation is the inner force that pushes individuals to take action toward their goals. It is what fuels effort, persistence, and commitment, whether in martial arts or anywhere in life. Motivation could come from within, intrinsic motivation, or from external factors, extrinsic motivation. But both play a crucial role in personal growth and achievement. Over to you, Mr. Yarwood.
So my thing, motivation is great, but it's short-lived as far as I'm concerned. Motivation is what gets you going, right? At some point, your motivation starts to fizzle, and that's when your discipline takes over. But motivation is important because that's what kind of gets the ball rolling. You know, if you have a desire to get going, to start. I know when I started martial arts back in 2008, it took me 6 months to walk in that front door the first time. I just kept driving past. One day I took a left, went and parked in the parking lot, sat in the car for about 10 minutes, thinking, oh man, I don't know. And finally I said, all right, I just got to go do it. And that motivation got me in the door, right? Because you're not always motivated to do everything, to get stuff done, but it's kind of what fuels the fire to start with. And that's kind of what happened with me with walking in that door for the first time. And then I never looked back. So it's important to kind of kickstart what you're trying to do, whether it be for me, martial arts, or, you know, whatever it is that you want to do that you've been thinking about doing. Motivation is what gets you started. Then it inspires you to keep going. And then when you run out of motivation, then you pick up the discipline. Don't you think?
100%. And I think the thing for me and motivation is for me, mostly it's got to be something that it's reward driven. You know, I know that on the sheet that you have, the importance of motivation in martial arts, it says starting the journey. Motivation is what inspires people to begin training in martial arts or anything, self-defense, fitness, discipline, personal growth. But for me, there's got to be a cookie. There's got to be a nugget, something that propels me to get off my butt and go get something done. And what I've discovered, especially here I am at 61 years old, pushing, you know, and heading towards learning the basics and getting my black belt in Taekwondo, and getting to that point where I can say, okay, now I'm ready to start training, is that black belt, right? Like that is seeing it up on the wall in the studio, in the gym, seeing my name there, knowing that at that point there's going to be that reward. And although it's the beginning of the journey, as I know it, will start when I get that, to be able to have the factors, have the flexibility, have the strength, the coordination, the determination, all of the things that I'm equipped with to be able to say that I'm ready to start that journey as a black belt, that's exciting, right? Because The last time I did it in my 20s, I dropped out and walked away. And it's a thing that's unfinished in my past. So that's another motivation for me is that's it. I don't care what it takes, or, in this case, I got injured. So it slowed me down. I've watched people that were next to me or quote unquote ranked below me, pass me. And, I have to remember that for me, that motivation now is single-handedly just is me focused. It's not about anybody else. It's between me, Mr. Yarwood, and the journey.
Yeah, that's the thing too, is like you never know where you're going to find the motivation, right? It's going to pop up in different places. Like for me, I mean, I'm on a personal journey in martial arts. My goal ultimately is to become a master, which is 2 years away. But it's not like my driving force for what I do, because it runs parallel to what I'm doing with my school, right? It just happens to be the time is passing in my personal side, so I'm doing those things that are going to get me to that level, and it's a great goal for me, but it's not what motivates me. What motivates me is when I see a student achieve something that they've been struggling with for a while, or have a kid come and tell me that he stood up for himself in school because of the confidence that he gained from the training that he gets from our school, or the kid that found out what it feels like to go help somebody else, right? To help another child, or to help their neighbor, or whatever it is, that feeling of giving, right? Those are the things that motivate me. And it's interesting because when I started training Taekwondo, it was about me, right? It's what I was doing, what I was earning, my belts that I was getting. And then when I got introduced to instruction and teaching, my focus changed. I still wanted to do, earn all my ranks and all that stuff. I was, that was part of it, but that part actually became more something that got me to where I needed to be on the instruction side. The only way I could be an instructor at certain levels is I had to have rank at certain levels, right? So they kind of coincided with each other. But my motivation for earning my black belt changed. So it wasn't the same as the day I walked in the door. So it's like sometimes you have to find new ways to motivate yourself for the same things, because the initial motivation might not be pertinent anymore. It might have worn off. The luster is gone, whatever, right? You got to find different ways to get yourself up and going again. So it's just it's motivation, like I said, is fleeting. It's something that comes and goes, and it can be different for different people. It does different things for different people. It may do, motivation may bring you one direction and then change it to go to another direction. Who knows? So it's just a matter of digging deep and finding out what it is that you want, and then finding that motivation that's going to get you where you want to go.
And for me, I as you say that, I think about my coaching business. And when I first started, I was super excited to be a coach. I didn't want it to be about the money. I wanted to make, my goal was to make $100,000 a year. And so I went $100,000 a year, 20,000 hours. I should charge $50. That's it. $50 an hour. And, and I'll just fill up, because I know I work more than 40 hours. So even with the spacing, I'll easily get 40 hours at $50. And, within a matter of, and this is right, this was a month after I hung my shingle out and said, this is what I'm going to do with my life 100% of the time, is coach individuals. I had 16 people sign up for coaching. It was awesome. And I didn't understand, at that point, I didn't understand it's because it's such a great deal. And I also didn't understand that there was sure, they were motivated because it was cheap. What was missing was when my appointment with them came up and they had, I had a potential new customer and they didn't show up for their appointment.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm out $50. And I suddenly realized, wait a minute, I went from 16 appointments to 8 appointments that actually made it. And I went from making this much money to making half of that. And I went, this is ridiculous. I can't live on this. I can't live on the stress of these people choose to make it or not, whether they're motivated to make it to their appointment.
Yep.
And I spoke to a friend of mine who's a psychiatrist who had started his own private practice. And he said, Les, I wish you'd told me. I would have told you, you have to charge them up front and get money out of them, because then they're motivated by money to make it to their appointment. And oh my gosh, like the word motivation in that moment took on a whole new meaning. And I got to the point where, now I charge for 3 months and I charge way more than $50 an hour. And my goal is that we go from the start of your coaching for 90 days, and you have to let me know at the end that you're not going to continue. Otherwise, you get billed for the next 90 to 120, and it's always 1 month in advance. And in those 90 days, what I discovered was how people are motivated. If they were truly motivated to transform who they are and choose a different path that would then make them profitable at another level, successful at another level, peaceful at another level, and they would be motivated. And the motivation was like overnight, went from none to motivated. Excuse me.
Gesundheit.
Thank you. And what I started to see was it was like paying for gas, right? You put the gas in the car and it just sits there until you start the engine, and then you get where you're going. Mm-hmm. And one of the points you brought up about motivation was fueling passion and enjoyment. And that's even when it comes to training, even of the type of training as a coach I do that sometimes isn't enjoyable. And you can definitely get your passion pushed to the limit. And I started to see how putting those structures into place, and I can see the relevance of those same structures in martial arts, those same guidelines, those same constructs. And I think in a lot of our life today, it's missing. Out there, it's missing. Because people say, "Oh, you can just float. You don't need to. The government will take care of you. There's free lunch. There's free dinner. There's free."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's no motivation to do anything because everything is done for you. So that motivation is gone. That desire to want more for yourself is gone, because why should I work hard if it's just given to me anyway? What's the point? And when you lose that drive and all that, the motivation is gone, then you're just stagnant and you don't go anywhere, and you eventually go backwards. You hit a peak and then you fall off. And then if your free lunch gets taken away from you, you've been beaten down so much that you don't have any motivation to do anything because it's been beaten out of you. So now you're screwed because you don't know how to motivate yourself anymore because you haven't had to. then your drive for success and for whatever it is you're looking for is gone.
And I think that's what martial arts provides at another level for kids that are in school, that are kids that are going through schooling, right? It gets them motivated. It gets them excited. It gets them, wakes them up in the morning, right?
Yep.
Just, hey, I went to school today because I was excited to go to martial arts afterwards.
Yep. Yeah, it's and that's a challenge too as an instructor to motivate your kids to want to do these things, because if they're coming out of that environment where they're not pushed, right, they're pulled, so they have no understanding of what it means to work hard to get something. Having them learn martial arts and having them teaching them to that the only way you're going to get it is to work for it. They sometimes that concept is missing because they don't know that they're supposed to work for stuff because they're used to just having it given to them. So sometimes we have to motivate them instead of them motivating themselves. We find ways to get them motivated, and it's not always fun. They don't always like it. It's a challenge for them because they're like, oh, what is this? What do you mean I have to do push-ups? Yeah, you have to do push-ups because I told you to do push-ups. And I'll motivate you to do other things too. If you don't like doing push-ups, we can find things that you're less likely to enjoy. Right? So if you don't like that, and you don't want to do that, all right, then we're going to do burpees, or we're going to do, who knows, right? We'll find something. But we'll motivate you to do the other things by having you do things you don't want to do. So it's that imposed motivation. You will be motivated. But then they start to understand that, hopefully they'll understand that it takes a little extra to get the things that you want. You're not just going to have them handed to you. They're not just going to show up on your doorstep. You have to go out and get them. And the way to get that is to start by motivating them to understand that that's what it takes.
And I think, people often say, well, when you go into the military, people, they brainwash you. And I look at it and I look back at my time and I go, they're not brainwashing me. They're training me to listen.
Yep.
To move through what is uncomfortable and maybe not even natural or normal, and to be able to do what's possible. That they know it's possible and I don't, because all of my frame of reference is my frame of reference, which says, oh my gosh, it's too hard. I'm not going to be able to do it.
Yep. Yeah, that mindset, we talked about mindset before. It's something it's a struggle to get people to understand that they and they alone are the ones who are going to get stuff done for them. I can guide you, I can lead you, I can teach you, I can coach you, I can do all those things, but ultimately they have to do it themselves. There's no way for me to do it for them. I can give them all the tools that they need. If they don't do it, then it ain't going to happen. They have to be motivated themselves to be able to get stuff done. I can push them a little bit. They might start to do things just because I'm telling them to do things. But ultimately, they got to take that guide on and they got to go. They got to move on for themselves. Otherwise, they're going to miss it. They're not going to get out of it what they're supposed to be getting out of it.
And I think, the importance of, we've touched on a lot of this, the importance of motivation in life comes from 5 things: setting and reaching goals, overcoming obstacles, building discipline and work ethic, finding purpose and fulfillment, and inspiring others. And as you read those things, a lot of people will get frustrated and out of sorts because they're like, well, I'm having a tough time. I'm having a breakdown. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't do this. I can't do that. And they've never tried. They've never tried with the correct supervision, with the correct training.
Yep. They've just never tried at all, much less with help, right? They get it in their head that they're not able to do something, or they're not going to like something, or something's too hard, or it'll never work. Whatever it is, they've convinced themselves, they've demotivated themselves to do it, right? And it's sometimes can be a challenge to actually get them to just take that first step. And they take that first step and realize, oh, it was hard, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. And I didn't fail, or I did fail, but I know I can do it because I think, oh, yeah, okay, I got an idea of what that is now. So I think I can figure this out. But if they don't even take that first step, then they're right. They can't do it.
Yeah.
They've convinced themselves that it's not possible for them, so that's it. And they're right.
What is it that you always say about the word can't?
Oh, we don't allow it at all. It's a limiting word. It's like saying I quit. We actually have consequences for saying that word. If they say this, we call it the C word, right? If they say the C word, then they have to do push-ups or burpees or whatever mom and dad decide too. Mom and dad can say, you're going to be doing, you're going to have to take out the trash for a week if you start saying it, whatever, right? It's all about the consequence of saying it. But the reason for it is because it stops you from doing whatever it is you think you're not able to do. And when you have that limit on yourself, that motivation is gone too, because you're like, there's no way I can do this. Well, there is, but you're just not willing to figure it out. And it's one of our base rules of our school. I don't have a lot of rules specifically that I tell everybody. I mean, they figure stuff out, but that's one of the ones I actually tell the parents. This word is not allowed in their vocabulary anymore. And I think too, it extends to the parents, because I've had kids who say they've caught mom and dad saying it, right? So they're so in tune with it now that they hear other people and they say, "Oh, you're not supposed to say that." So I know the value of it. I know it works, because eventually the kids figure out that, hey, they hear it in other people, right? And then they become that person that gets them to say, "Hey, you're not supposed to say that word." That's fun to hear.
And it's good to see in the moment or in the class, it's that quick to see somebody go from I can't, to changing their language, changing their wording, and actually doing whatever it is and succeeding. And they turn around like fully surprised. Mr. Yarwood, I did it. And you're like, of course you did.
I told you. It's there. You just have to make that decision to do it.
And I think,
like I said, that external motivation sometimes is what it takes to get them moving forward, to understand the value in making a choice to do something you don't think you can do. Because all that does is it reinforces that idea that you can do things you don't think you can do, right? So if they get one thing accomplished, then that leads to the next thing, right? That might be a little bit more challenging. And then they do that. Then they move on to the next one. And now that's motivation to want to do those things that are more challenging for them, because they know inside that even though they may seem like it's going to be something they're not going to be able to do, they try it and they surprise themselves and go, "Oh, that was awesome. Well, what about this? Why don't I try this now?" And it just continues and snowballs that way, hopefully. And eventually they're going to lunge.
Go ahead. What was that?
Like you said, eventually they're going to run into a challenge that's going to be bigger than they're used to, but they're going to look at it differently. They're going to look at it like, wow, all right, this one's a little bit more, but you know what? I got this. Let's go, right? Because they've already accomplished those smaller ones. That mindset is there now that they're going to try it versus just give up before they even start.
Yeah, and I look at the once that motivation button is learned by themselves, the access to it is never ending.
Yep.
I wrote something in the comments. I said, push through your challenges. Why? Because then you know yourself as somebody greater than you did before.
Mm-hmm.
And the world out there doesn't want that.
Nope.
The world right now is designed itself to be in such a place that we want you to stay small. We want you to stay insignificant. We want you to stay dependent on us.
Mm-hmm. We don't want you to be motivated. Because if you're motivated, then you get stuff done. And when you get stuff done, we don't have control anymore.
Yeah. So, yeah, this is really a good one. I'm glad we got an opportunity. And then, in the conclusion aspect of it, it says motivation is the spark that ignites passion, perseverance, and growth. In martial arts, it keeps students training and striving for excellence. In life, I'm watching somebody, and I'm watching these kids go down the park here, and I think, what motivates a kid to have fun? Like, what is it? And as we're saying this, I think just like when you go to the theater and you cough, all of a sudden there's a bunch of people that cough in the theater. Just like when somebody gets happy and starts laughing and dancing and having a good time, other people get addicted. They get motivated by that. And I think that's the same thing with the conversation about motivation. That's all it takes.
Yep. Got to get that ball rolling.
Yep. Most definitely. Well, Mr. Yarwood, any final thoughts on motivation before we wrap up tonight?
No, like I said in the beginning, motivation only gets you so far, right? It gets you started. It ignites you. It's that discipline that keeps you going. Because when you don't want to do something, when you're tired, when you're sick, when you're busy, whatever, and you decide, you know what, I'm going to put that off, right? That's not motivation. That's discipline. And if you can get it done, the discipline then reignites your motivation to want to do more. So it's kind of keeps working. That discipline is always there. That motivation goes like this, up and down on top of that discipline, right? So you get something done, the discipline to get it done. Say you don't want to go work out in the morning, but you decide to anyway, and then you get motivated by your results, and you want to do it again and again and again. So having discipline inspires motivation. And, it's just the first thing is put that foot on the floor, put in front of you, and just go.
Yeah, I love that. Having discipline inspires motivation.
Was that profound or what? Every once in a while I say something like that, right?
You say it more than you think. All right. Well, I want to thank you, Mr. Yarwood. I thank you for this. I want to thank those that have been watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. And we look forward to meeting next week to discuss number 33, whatever topic that may be next week.
Yes, sir. All right. See you on the mats.
All right.